Hello and welcome back to OC Aviary. Now it's a week on since we actually paired up the native finches. We're obviously in the redpoll shed at the moment and we have the canaries as well and the feeders. We've got the other birds outside and the larger finches, mules and hybrid pairs in the other bird room. So we've got plenty of things to look at today. We've got new arrivals in the feeder canaries and the other canaries, and we have some huge developments from the natives, including the redpolls and the green finches. So we're going to take a look at all of those today. We've got chicks to look at and many nests to look at. I'm going to talk to you a bit about actually moving eggs, setting eggs, and actually the nest material I offer to the natives and the canaries. So starting off with the nest materials that I give to the natives and the canaries, they generally take the same. However, I do offer natives moss as well. They just tend to take it more than I've found with the canaries, and it is important that if you are using moss, you do sterilise it and you do clean it through. So I put it through a sterilising fluid and just make sure that anything nasty on that is killed, and then I do give it a quick spray with some anti-mite spray. Just because we don't want to be bringing anything into the bird room that could be harming the birds. You know, it's better to be safe than try and risk it and actually backfire. So always make sure that you clean down anything you bring from the natural world into here, so you don't introduce anything to your birds. So that's for the natives, is mainly moss as well. It was with everything that I'm going to show you. So we'll start off with now. Sisal is generally a lighter coloured fibre. This is a bit more bleached than some of them. You get generally some which are a bit more of a creamy colour, and I offer this to pretty much all of the natives. The redpolls, they love it, they build out of it. The green finches, they use it. We've got crossbills, they use it. We've got siskins, they really do like this stuff. They really like the finer sort of materials, and the canaries love this stuff as well. So Sisal is a big one, and I do have Sisal nest liners as well, like that, which are ideal for the redpolls. So they're in for all of the redpolls, and if I did have some spare, I would actually have some in for the siskins as well, but we've got a bit of a similar thing for the siskins as a nest felt. Next we have jute. So this is like a string almost, and it's just a nice fibre. It's soft. Canaries really do like this, and they build most of their nest out of this. This is the bulk of the nest material which canaries use, but the natives really do like this as well. It's good as a mid-length fibre because they get to build it in, and it adds some bulk to the nest, so it helps them build it quicker than using all really small finer fibres. So they all get jute, and that usually goes down quite well, and you will find that with some natives you might get one pair of redpolls that will build almost entirely out of this and another that won't touch it. So don't be alarmed if you have a pair that don't like this. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them, it's just based on the preference, and similar to humans in that way, everyone has a different preference. So then we have a mixed animal hair. So this has got all sorts in. We've got cotton in there, lots of different animal hair, I believe. Might be horsehair in there, and some other finer ones like that. There's a little bit of string in there, and a few shorter cocoa fibre pieces. So that's really good for the bulk of nest as well. But I mainly offer something like this to the natives and the canaries, for that fact, towards the end of their nest building, because it's softer, so they'll generally use this to line their nest rather than the bulk of it, just because it is quite soft. Now siskins do love this, and I found that last year with my siskins they built their nest almost entirely out of this, but every bird is different in that sense. Goldfinches I do think will like this, but generally if you've ever seen a goldfinch nest, they do tend to line their nest with something softer like feathers. So that's something else. And then finally, cocoa fibre. So this is really good. This is a good mix I got from Direct Bird Products. It's not too long. Some of the really more heavily processed cocoa fibres that you can get, nothing wrong with them, but they are quite long, and I found that at least with some of the birds, especially the smaller finches, you'll see a redpoll with a 12-inch moustache of cocoa fibre, and sometimes they do struggle to get around with that. So what I do is, if I end up with really long fibres, I'll just get the scissors, chop straight through it and make it some 6-inch fibres or so, just a bit more manageable. But this is really ideal. You've got different fibres in that, and they really do like this. And what's great about cocoa fibre is that the birds do take it quite well as the overall structure, because they can bend it and they can curl it around the nest to give it the overall circular shape. So again, something like that is really ideal. Now, if you're breeding bullfinches as well, you'll know that bullfinches almost entirely build their nest out of cocoa fibre alone. They will take sticks, twigs and roots, and that's generally in the wild as well, but at least with the bullfinch we have in captivity now, they pretty much will build a nest only out of cocoa fibre. It's just easy to get and it's not expensive. So if you do have bullfinches, then the best thing and the only thing I would really be putting in there for them is cocoa fibre, because it's easy and it's cheap. So what I want to do now is show you the youngsters that we've got. So we had last week some yellow dimorphics hatch. You obviously saw them quite small. Well, they're rung now, so we'll take a look at those just in a little bit. And then we also have some new arrivals with one of the pairs of feeders. So we'll go and take a look at those young birds now and how they're developing. So these are the yellow dimorphic chicks. Now, last week you saw them at just a few days old, and just in a week's time they've really progressed nicely. We've got the two, obviously the other two eggs were infertile, and I rung them the other day, so these are on BBC G rings, just because I don't plan on showing my any of my canaries for that matter. They're only here as feeders and as mulling birds, so I do want to ring them just so I have the ages and I know who's related, but there's no show quality or show intentions with them. So just having a look at them, obviously I try not to disturb them too much, but you can see we've got feathers coming through, at least on the one that's closer to the camera. And they're doing really well, doing really nicely. They're feeding well, the parents are doing a great job. And we'll talk about what they're getting given, what the parents are being fed best for their youngsters. So then we'll come to the other pair of feeders. Now, this is the hen on the nest, yellow ticked hen, fife hen, so we'll just get her to move, and there you are, that is her 3 chicks. Now, we've got 2 black eyes and a red eye in there, which to me shows that one of the red eyes is a cinnamon. I confirmed this with Matt Held of the Canary Room the other day, just to check, because I'm not as up to scratch with my canaries. So that does mean that the cockbird carries cinnamon. So this is actually a cinnamon hen in there. So we've got 2 black eyes, which could be, I presume are clears or variegateds. And then we have a cinnamon in there, whether it's we'll see how they develop, but they're doing really well. We'll just try and get them up a little bit if we can. I know it doesn't look up. There we are. So there's the cinnamon. So they're doing really good. They're about 4 or 5 days old now, so it won't be long before I'm actually ringing these guys. So these are going to be going on some E-rings because they are a smaller breed of canary than the new colours. So we'll see them develop in the next 1 or 2 weeks, and hopefully by then we'll have them on the perches. So we have a few more developments with the canaries. We've got another pair of new colours on 4 eggs, which we'll take a look at in a minute, and then we have the Norwich and another pair of feeders, which we'll all have a look at, and they're all doing really well. So we're going to visit the new, the other new colour pair first. So this is the red-eyed satinette pair. We've got the hen now. She's relaid after the infertile eggs. As you can see, she's there, and she's actually on 4. So she's been on them about 2 or 3 days now, and I just don't want to candle them yet because they will be fragile embryos, so it's just not worth candling them. And we'll give it a few more days, maybe by the weekend or so, and then I'll drop them a candle, see how they're developing, and well, fingers crossed they are developing, and then we'll talk about that in next week's episode. So now we're going to visit the Norwich. So we've got the Norwich hen who we had to change the pairing. She was we thought she was a cockbird, and she was in with the green finch since October, and it turns out it's a hen, and she proved that to me. So we've got her in now with a nice white and blue there. So that's a nice pair, and they're getting on really well. The cock's feeding her, and we have developments in the nest. So she's built up a really good nest at the moment. Now we haven't been granted, we haven't got any eggs at the moment, but nothing that I can't expect within the next day or so. I think she's doing quite well with that nest, and she does seem quite content with it. And she's not made many changes to it in the past day or so. So we've got those obviously in an external nest pan, and they're getting on really well. So that's a great sign. And then we'll visit the other pair of Norwich. Now you'll notice the nest pan is overflowing with nest material, so I can't really open this one because she's built it to nearly the height of this viewing window here. So we've got the ticked buff hen and yellow normal variegated cock there, so they're doing really well. We haven't got an egg as of yet. I did expect one this morning, to be honest, because of how high the nest is, and they were treading yesterday, so I was lucky enough to see that, and I was getting really giddy and excited about that because I was unsure whether I'd been able to breed Norwich this year, and it's great to see that the cock was threading the hen. So they're getting on well, so hopefully by next week's episode we might have some eggs, and that will then take me on to another pair and actually what we're going to do with the Norwich eggs. So this is actually the second pair of feeders. She's actually laid 4 eggs at the moment. I've took them out and actually replaced them with pot eggs. And the reason being for that is that I want to, 1, set the eggs to hatch at the same time, and 2, give her the chance and the Norwich a chance with rearing the young. So I do know, or I can quite confidently say, that this hen will most likely be rearing her young because she is a good and ideal breed for a feeder. Now the Norwich aren't really a good parent bird. You might lose interest quite quickly with the youngsters or the eggs and sitting on them. So I'd ideally like to get a couple of Norwich out for future muling ideas and expeditions. So what I've done now is she is on 4 pot eggs. She laid the 4th one this morning, hopefully, well, 4th real egg, and hopefully she might lay 5, but she's sat on them quite tight at the moment. So I've actually removed the eggs, and they're up in a nest, which I'll show you now. And I just want to see that if I can set her eggs around the same time as Norwich, then we have the opportunity, and maybe we'll get her eggs and actually put them under a Norwich and give the Norwich a chance to rear some youngsters. But although it's not great to favourite them, I would rather get a few Norwich out than all feed of 5 canaries and no Norwich at all. We'll get a bit of a mix of both. So we'll see what happens there, but either way, she's sat well, she's sat tight, and it's looking promising. So hopefully we'll be getting a Norwich egg in the next day or so, which we could put underneath her to sit. So actually removing the eggs from the feeder canary is going to be useful because we can obviously replace them with the pot eggs like we've done, and put them underneath her, so she's going to sit on them believing they're her eggs, and it'll just allow us to set the eggs at the same time, so they should hatch at the same time. We'll end up with no huge age gaps between the youngsters, of probably only a couple of hours if that. And then also that we can set the eggs around the same time as other birds. So we're going to look at the natives shortly, and actually the developments with them, which is one of the reasons why we're holding the 5 hen off. But also the Norwich is that I want to stop the Norwich from rearing their own youngsters, or just their own youngsters, for this first round, because I want to secure that first round of Norwich out. So I hopefully should have some to work with next year or so, which will be ideal and good. So we'll see how they get on. So now it's time to actually look at the developments with the native birds. So starting off in what is effectively now the red poll room, we've got 3 pairs of red polls built up with eggs. So the first pair we'll visit, you may have seen on the Natives in Norwich group on Facebook a few days ago, and we have this pair. So this is an agate pastel cockbird to a cinnamon hen. Now the cinnamon hen was bred from, well, we believe it was a silver cobalt pastel hen, but a bit unsure. But either way, there's a chance that she could be split cinnamon with split pastel, and with him being a visual pastel, we could get some visual pastels. But if not, we'll end up with pastel carriers. So from this pair, we'll have agate split pastel hens, normal split cinnamon, split agate, split pastel cocks, which will be fantastic because we'll have a real variety of youngsters to be produced. So they've obviously built in here, lovely little nest, and you can just see that one of the eggs, they've got 2 eggs in there now, so this is day 2, and there's 2 eggs in there, so let's hope they're full, and I'm really pleased because they are a lovely pair of birds. Now next along, we actually have the sister to that cinnamon hen, another cinnamon hen, and she is in with an Isabel cockbird, both 2020 birds, just like those others. So these guys, because we're doing the Isabel and the cinnamon, we'll get cocks which are cinnamon split for Isabel, and we'll get hens that are Isabel. So that's going to be great because we can tell the sex of the youngsters immediately as they hatch. And this is the nest. We've got a nest that's been a little bit less constructed there. I don't know if you can see at the moment, but there are actually 2 eggs in there. So we've got another set of red pole eggs in there. So that's really good. That's really promising. I am looking forward to hopefully those eggs being full and producing from this pair. And then we'll come down to this pair. Now this was unexpected. She was only just building up yesterday and really just inspecting the nest site, and I came out yesterday evening to just check the birds before I go in for the night, and the birds, she was sat on the nest which was almost fully constructed, and this morning we were given an egg. So this is quite a well constructed nest, a much higher one, so sadly we probably aren't going to be able to see the egg in there, but from this pair we're going to get, this is a cobalt hen to a normal pastel cockbird. So that's going to be really good because we're going to be producing both normals and cobalts in cocks and hens from this pair, all of which will be split for pastel. So that's going to be really good, having all these split pastels, and obviously with the other pair having split pastel youngsters as well, we can hopefully pair up the youngsters together in the following years and get visual pastel birds in, which would be nice. But this is a really good cobalt hen. This is the sister to the one I took Best Novice Hardbill with 2 years ago at the national show. So that was really good, and that's really promising, and this is an absolutely lovely example of a cobalt. So fingers crossed that those eggs are full as well. I can't see why not. The cockbirds have been treading, as has he and has he. So let's hope those eggs are full, and by next week's video we should have full clutches from these guys and we'll be candling them. So what about the other red poll pairs? Well, we have the pair of cinnamons. We have the cinnamon cock to the cinnamon hen whose parents were silver medalists at the World Show. They are building up nicely, which is really good, really promising to see. So we might get an egg in the next few days or so from these guys. Nothing from this pair at the moment. We have the normal pied cockbird to the fantastic Jack Lloyd normal hen. Nothing from them at the moment, but again, we are mid-April and I've found that with a lot of my red polls we haven't even had nests starting to build until about the end of April, so plenty of time to work with them. For the other pair, we have the normal split Feo to the normal hen. They haven't really shown much signs of building yet, but it doesn't mean that they aren't going to. Again, same as well. We have those guys
we've got them all breeding season, so I can't imagine that they won't start at all. We've got the pair of Cobalt to Cobalt. They've been inspecting the nest site, but I still think they're a little unsure. For this pair, we have the normal pied cockbird to the Cobalt pied hen. We had a bit of a mishap with them, which is actually why I've changed the nest felt. We've actually put a bit of a different one in there. That I found the hen was really getting wrapped up in the sisal. She nearly did get caught out and strangled, so I had to remove that nest site. I noticed that what the issue was is that there was quite a few loose fibres on that compared to any of the other ones. It just was, I wasn't happy with it. Didn't feel it was safe to leave it in, so I've removed that one. And then we have this pair here. So we have the Cobalt hen to our normal split agate, split cinnamon cockbird. They are showing interest, which is great, but still in the process of building. I don't think that hen has much idea of how to build. She's a young hen, but she's been putting the easy bed wood chippings in the base rather than a lot of the nest material I've been offering. So we'll have to see how they get on next week.
So now we're in the other bird room. We've got the two pairs of siskins behind me. We have a mule and hybrid, a mule pair hair greenfinch mule. We've got siskin red poll hybrid. We've got the goldfinch mule pair. We've done a bit of a change with the other goldfinch mule pair, which I'll talk about a little later on. And we have the two pairs of greenfinches. So we've got a few developments in here as well, which we'll look at now.
So we'll come to the first pair of greenfinches in here. We've got the normal hen with the pied cockbird, the 50-50 pied cockbird who we bred last year. She has built up now and she's on 4 to 5 eggs. Now I set these last night. Usually I do leave the natives and try not to remove their eggs, at least first round, so we get the first round out of them, and I don't want to deter them, but I did end up having to move her eggs and the other pair we're going to see shortly. The reason being is that she just kept ragging the nest and was unsure if she was happy with it, and the eggs were suffering because of it. I found one of the eggs really buried deep, so I've removed the eggs and replaced them with pot eggs. We put them back in last night now so that she's happy with the nest site. So there's at least 4 in there which I put in. There could be a 5th which she could have laid last night. So that's the first pair. So let's hope that we get some pieds out of them. So then we have the second pair of greenfinches. We've got the normal hen to the more lightly pied cockbird. They have got a definite 3 eggs. She's a day behind on the other hen. So she laid 3 and I set them yesterday evening. Now that I'm confident she's happy with her nest. So there's at least 3 in there. Let's hope they're full. And she could have potentially laid a 4th. But with it being a young hen, I would rather she have maybe a smaller clutch of 3. Just to really have a bit of a more manageable amount of youngsters. So let's hope they're full and we get some more pied youngsters from them.
So for the rest of the birds in here, they are moving forward, but they're a little bit more behind. Now, what's the reason for this? I'd say it's maybe a bit of a slightly darker shed. It's not much, and obviously we have the bar light here as well, and we've got the LED strip lights underneath. So I don't think there's a massive influence just on the light itself, but probably more just because of the types of birds they are. So to start with, we have the Norwich cock with the greenfinch hen. They're starting to make a move. They're taking a little bit longer to get used to each other because obviously we only introduced them last week with having to change the cockbirds about. Well, we had to change the hen for a cockbird, otherwise there's no chance of getting full eggs. So it's all right, and we'll have to see how they get on. The hen is showing interest. I do believe she is interested and wants to nest, but I think it might take a little bit more time or longer before we can expect to, just because she needs to get settled in with that Norwich. We've got the red poll siskin hybrid. Red polls generally in the wild don't go down till May, and the siskins is late April. So nothing yet, but again, it is, well, it's about time, but there's plenty. You know, I'd say it's probably about another 3 weeks before I start to need to be concerned about it, and as to why maybe she isn't going to nest. but we'll have to see how they get on. For the Siskins, we've got the 2 pairs behind me. Well, I think we might have pushed them back a slight bit just through the move. They might have not preferred it as much, having to move out of the other bird room into here. But again, it's nothing that we can't fix with just a bit more time and getting them settled. They are both showing interest, the pairs. The hens are picking up material, the cocks are chasing the hens. They're doing exactly as they generally would anyway. But I think maybe she's just a bit more... it is a different environment for them, so we'll have to see how they get on. But I can't see a reason as to why we might not have a nest by next week or the week after. So we'll just have to see how they're getting on. There is nest material in there, but in the nest sites actually, which they've put in there, but no serious attempt to build yet.
So you may recall last week we had a goldfinch mule pair in here. We had the spare goldfinch cock in with a new colour cross hen. Well, we've decided to move those about a bit. So I've actually put the red poll mule cock in here just because it's an ideal little cage for him. It is a smaller cage. I just felt that the goldfinch wasn't settling in that. I think it was just maybe, it's just a bit too, it's not high enough. This is only a small cage for him, and even just 2 of them, it still doesn't make it great. So I just think the goldfinch would have been suited elsewhere, which is why we've moved him and the hen to another cage, which I'll show you. And they're getting on just fine in there. No building by the hen, but I can't imagine why there wouldn't be relatively soon. So that's the goldfinch, the red poll mule cock in there when the goldfinch mule pair moved. So then you may remember we had the other goldfinch mule pair in here. We had the goldfinch, native goldfinch cock with a red-eyed satinate canary hen. Now, I noticed that the canary hen just didn't seem right. I have a feeling she might have been going blind a bit. She was in there. We've now moved them out actually into the flight where the young birds will be going. But we don't need it just yet because no young birds have hatched. Well, no young birds are on the flights. So I've moved them into a flight just to get the cockbird fit, and we'll try and run him over some different hens, and I think we'll end up retiring the hen he was with for other purposes.
So between the 2 bird rooms, we've seen so many developments with the native birds. So what about the birds outside in the flight? Well, to start with, we've got the pair of green finches. We've got the hen we had from Paul Meek. I bred off her last year. For the other greenfinch hens you've seen today, she is in with the cockbird from the Evans and Pontin line, which Mark Pontin gifted me. So a huge thank you to Mark. And we're close to an egg. She's built up. We've changed the nest site a little bit. I could tell that she wasn't settled with the nest site. For those of you that have got birds, I'm pretty sure you can tell when your bird just isn't settled, she isn't happy. And it's mainly the hens, they tend to be quite picky. And she was just not taken to either of the nest sites. We had the one at the back with quite a bit of cover, and the one further forward with less cover, just to see what she'd choose. And she just wasn't happy. So I was thinking back at, how could I change it? Well, what I thought actually was last year, how I bred her was an external nest pan with a fake Christmas tree mounted on the side. So I thought, well, we'll give it a go. We've got nothing to lose. It's early in the season. We'll put it up. So I put one up, and 2 days later, we've got a fully constructed nest. Now, I did actually expect an egg this morning. The nest is complete. I can't see anything she can really add to it, but she clearly does want to. So I'm going to keep giving her a bit more nest material so she can finish it with more of the softer ones like the greenfinches do like. So hopefully we should have an egg from that. It's pretty much my best pair of greenfinches, best hen, best cockbird. And fingers crossed by next week's episode you might actually see some. So that's for those guys. The crossbills are, of course, being a real pain and really annoying me at the moment. We can't get any movement forward with them. They just will not go to nest, and I can't work out why. So what I did is remove the cockbirds earlier in the week. So they've been out for actually 5 days, and I introduced them just this morning. So what I did expect, and I did film, but we didn't get any footage, so it wasn't worth showing, is what I did expect is after reintroducing the cockbirds, after about 5 days to a week of being separate from the hen would squat and he would immediately thread her. Well, neither of which happened. The hen didn't squat, so he didn't thread her. Well, I don't know what else to try. at that point. We've tried removing them and from separating them from each other and putting the cockbirds elsewhere to get a bit more fit away from the hen, and it's just not worked. So I think the only thing that I could really try is actually swap the pairings, not swapping the cocks to different hens because I think that would really mess it up because they'd be bonded, but rather actually swap the flights they're in. So I'm going to get the best pair in the middle flight, move them to the end flight, and the pair from the end flight into the middle flight. They might take to it, and I think just maybe the change of scenery will spark it. I found that worked last year with my crossbills. When I brought the first hen in, she went to nest within a week because I brought her in from Stafford, and it was a completely different change. She went straight down. And when I had this and the other flight as a mixed aviary, then I put the crossbill hen in there because she was a spare, put her in. A week later she's got a nest. So that's the only thing I can think to try, is a change of scenery, and hopefully it just makes them click. We'll have to see what happens. So I'm going to give them a few more days just because I've put the cockbirds in, and then probably by the end of the weekend they'll be in the other flight because I'm losing patience with them, and it is about being patient with breeding natives. But it's been about 4 months since you started carrying nest material and still not made any moves. So that's all I can think. And if not, I might try Shane Evans' idea, which he did with his crossbills, which worked. He's put something else in there which would be more competition. I know that Shane mentioned in one of his videos, put a green finch in with a pair of crossbills because the crossbills had very few full eggs, and he's now got 4 full eggs, which is great. So I'm thinking I might try that. Maybe we'll throw a spare cockbird in there and just hope that it might get them to trigger, and whether we end up with a mule, a hybrid, or a pure crossbill, it'll be great. And just see if that gets them to move on. So we'll see what happens there. And then finally we have the trio of Siberian goldfinches with the pair of Siberian bullfinches. Now, after the initial introduction and the hen bullfinch being a little bit wary of the goldfinch cock, they're getting on fine now. There's no or very little squabbling, which is great, which is a great sign. And the goldfinch hens, they're both carrying material and have began to move forward with nesting and began to actually start building the nests. So hopefully we might see next week a bit more development on that. But they have started to build in at least 2 of the nest sites. I think the grass liner and the white nest inlay for the goldfinches. The bullfinches carry material, carrying cocoa fibre, but I think they're still I think they're actually spoilt for choice on the nest sites we're giving them. So she's just choosing which nest site she wants. She's going between the wooden chapels, so we'll have to see which one she chooses, but she might end up throwing a complete curveball and going for a UPVC one or making a standalone nest. So we'll see what happens there, but fingers crossed by next week's video or next week's episode of Breeding British Birds, we might have a move in the right direction with those guys. So before we get to the end of this episode, we've been obviously sorting out the young birds. We've got 5 young birds at the moment. We've got the 2 yellow dimorphics and the 3 5-feeder canaries. Well, the youngsters are doing great, and what I've been giving them is a mix which is similar to my conditioning egg food mix, but it's got a few more different ingredients in it, which will be better for rearing and have a better nutritional value than just the bog standard egg food and the conditioned egg food, because it is different, and I do make it differently specifically for the rearing, and I do have additives. So I've been giving them that's every day for the parents, and they've been feeding no problem. I've also been giving them a few extra little bits, so I've given them a spoonful of peas a day. They've been getting that and putting it in the youngsters no problem. Sweet corn again, and I have been offering them a completely basic egg food, which is just the dry mix, just to see how they find that, and the parents are feeding great on that as well, so they're doing really good. So I'll do a video a little later on, perhaps next week or the following week, on my breeding egg food and what I use for the birds when they're rearing their youngsters. So that does bring us to the end of episode 2 of Breeding British Birds. So I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and obviously with the move forward from last week we paired up to now, we've got natives building and natives on eggs. It's fantastic, and by the end of the month we really should have many or some nests of native birds, which I'm really looking forward to. So fingers crossed it all goes well, and I'll keep you guys updated. And for more regular updates, follow my Instagram page, OC_Avery, and you can see all of the updates on there pretty much daily with all the birds, and get to see how they're getting on behind the scenes. We also have the Facebook page, so if you aren't following that, then it's on Facebook. All the links are in the description below for my pages, so you can see that, no problem. And generally on my Facebook, I'm just putting up when I've got new episodes coming out and videos, rather than the general updates, so it doesn't get too crowded. Because generally I'll put that on other bird groups like the Natives and Norwich group, which I help run with some the rest of the admin team. So if you have enjoyed today's video, please do subscribe. I'd love to see as many of you guys who are watching my videos subscribed as possible. We're about only about 25% of you are subscribed who watch, so please do make sure you subscribe down below. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a like and have your notification bell on so you don't miss any of my future episodes of Breeding British Birds, more tips in the week, and also the Natives and Norwich Zoom room calls with some of the top fanciers from around the world. And we've got some amazing lineups at the moment, so make sure you do have that. And then finally, if you have enjoyed today's episode and you think you know someone that would enjoy it, hit the share button, share it with them so more people can enjoy these videos. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.